My name is Ethan, and I need to tell you what happened to my parents. Because the last time I heard from my mom was a Thursday night. I remember because I had leftover lasagna heated up on the coffee table, and the Sixers were playing the Celtics in the fourth quarter. I was locked in. But then my phone buzzed next to me. It was a text from my mother. Hey, sweetheart, Dad and I are headed to the lake house this weekend. Leaving tomorrow morning. Love you, she said. I tapped back with one hand, fork in the other. Sounds good. Be safe. Love you too, I said. And that was it. That was the whole conversation. I didn't call. I didn't ask when they'd be back. I just went back to my game and my lasagna and didn't think too much of it. That was July 9th. And a couple days later, my phone rang at exactly 11:40 p.m. at night. I was already half asleep. I saw my brother Chris's name on the screen and almost let it go to voicemail. You see, because Chris and I talked maybe once a month, and it was never at midnight. But that night, something made me pick up. He didn't even say hello. He just said, Ethan, when was the last time we talked to Mom and Dad? I sat up in bed. I don't know, maybe a couple of days ago. She texted me about the lake house. Why? There was a pause on the other end. Not a thinking pause, a scare pause. Well, because Lana and I haven't heard from them since the 10th, he said. They told us they'd be going for the weekend. Well, the weekend came and went. We figured maybe they extended the trip. You know how Dad gets. But it's been a couple of days now, Ethan. They're not answering calls. They're not answering texts. The house is just exactly the way they left it. Their mail is still piling up in the box. Lana's been checking every day, he said. Lana was our sister. I could hear her in the background, just breathing the way she breathes when she's trying not to cry. Did you call the police? I asked. Yeah, we filed a report a couple of days ago. They said adults are allowed to go off the grid if they want to. They said give it time. Give it time? I said. Yeah, that's what they said. I sat there in the dark with the phone pressed to my ear and my heart doing something it never had done before. Not racing, not pounding, just sitting heavy in my chest like a stone that didn't belong there. My little brother and my sister had been living under the same roof as our parents. They watched them walk out the front door with overnight bags, and now days had passed with nothing. I'm coming down, I said. When? He said. Tonight. I'm leaving right now. I hung up, got dressed, and grabbed my keys off the counter. I didn't pack a bag. I didn't turn the lights off. I just walked out the door, and I started driving. The whole way there, about 30 minutes on a dark highway, I kept pulling up that text story with my mom. Just the two of us, her message, my message. The gray and blue bubble was sitting there like the last page of something that I didn't know I was reading. Sounds good, be safe, love you too. That was the last thing I ever said to her. 30 minutes of staring at the road, and that text kept playing in my head, and I couldn't stop thinking that maybe if it was the last thing I ever said to her. When I pulled into the driveway about 12:20, Chris was sitting on the porch steps. Lana was in the doorway behind him with her arms crossed, tight against her chest. But the driveway told a different story. Chris's Civic was there. Lana's little Corolla next to it. And then just empty concrete where Dad's Explorer should have been. I don't know why they hit me as hard as it did. I already knew they were gone. Chris told me on the phone. But seeing that space, that gap where a car was supposed to be, made it real in a way words didn't. Chris was sitting on the top step. He looked tired. Not the kind of tired that you get from one bad night, the kind that settles into your face and stays. He stood up when I got out of the car and just looked at me for a second, and then he pulled me into a hug, held it longer than he normally would. Thanks for coming, he said. You ain't gotta thank me for this, I said. Lana was standing in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes swollen. She just gave me a simple, hey, quietly, like she was exhausted from crying so much. She then leaned into me and pressed her forehead against my chest and stayed there. I put my hand on the back of her head and I looked at Chris over her shoulder. He was watching us with this expression I couldn't read. The house was warm, like the thermostat had been left alone for weeks and nobody thought to adjust it. The TV was off, the kitchen was clean. Not messy clean the way it usually was, actually clean. Counters wiped, dish rack empty. The little ceramic rooster Mom kept by the stove was centered perfectly on the windowsill. It's been like this since they left, Chris said. He was standing behind me in the kitchen doorway. Mom must have cleaned up before they headed out. You know how she is about leaving the house messy, he said. I opened the fridge. Milk, eggs, a Tupperware of something that I couldn't identify. Normal stuff. But the milk's expiration date was July 12th, 3 days after they supposedly left. You don't buy milk after the week you're leaving for a trip. I didn't say anything about it, not then. I just closed the fridge and moved on. The living room was the same. Dad's recliner, Mama's blanket folded on the arm of the couch, remote on the coffee table. I looked at the coat rack by the front door. 2 hooks were empty, the ones Mom and Dad always used. Their jackets are gone, I said. Yeah, Chris nodded. I noticed that the first day. Bags too, Dad's duffel, Mom's little rolling suitcase, all gone, he said. Lana sat down on the couch and pulled Mama's blanket into her lap without unfolding it. Just held it. Alright, so walk me through everything again, I said to Chris. Chris sat down and he leaned forward. Alright, so Friday morning I was asleep. Lana had already left for work. She had the early shift that day. I heard the front door close around 6, maybe 6:30. I figured it was them leaving for the lake house like Mom said. I didn't get up. I didn't think I needed to. Chris paused. And when I came downstairs around 9, the house was empty. Car was gone. Everything looked normal. Did you see them leave? No, I just heard the door. I looked at Lana. She shook her head before I even asked. I was already at work by 6. I didn't see them that morning. I said goodbye to Mom the night before. I told her to have fun at the lake, Lana said. Chris kept going. I texted Mom Saturday afternoon just to check in. Nothing back. I tried again on Sunday, still nothing. Monday I called Dad's phone and it went straight to voicemail. That's when I started to. He rubbed his palms together slowly. But I told myself they were fine. Maybe they extended the trip. Maybe they drove somewhere else. And by Wednesday I was calling almost every couple of hours, Chris said. Both phones, nothing. He stopped, rubbed his jaw, looked at the floor like he was pulling something off from the back of his memory. And actually, there was one thing, I don't know if it actually means anything. I waited. That Friday afternoon, the day they left, I went out to grab the mail. Mrs. Kendrick was outside the street watering her plants. We talked for a second. She mentioned she saw a car in the driveway that morning that she did not recognize. A dark SUV. Said that she saw 2 people near the front door, a man and a woman. She didn't know them. Who was it, a couple? I asked. That's what she said. A couple she'd never seen before. Standing near the front door around the time Mom and Dad would have been leaving. What did they look like? I asked. Chris shook his head. She didn't get a good look, said that she was just making coffee and just caught it through the kitchen window. Middle-aged, maybe? She wasn't too sure. Couldn't tell me about the plates on the SUV either. Did you tell the police? I asked. That was the first thing I told them when I filed the report. They wrote it down and said they'd look into it, but I don't know if they ever did, he said. He said it like it was nothing, like it was just another detail in a long list of details that hadn't added up to anything yet. And then he moved on. The calls that went nowhere, the police report that felt like shouting into a wall. But that detail about the couple, it stuck. It stuck because Chris didn't push it. None of us slept much that first night. Lana took her room, I took the couch. Chris went upstairs to his room and closed the door. And I heard the floor creak above me for a long time before it went quiet. I laid there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, with Mom's blanket over me. The house was doing that thing that old houses do at night, settling, ticking, breathing through the walls. Every sound made me flinch. The refrigerator humming, a branch tapping the window. I kept picking up my phone and looking at that last text from Mom, just reading it over and over like the words might rearrange themselves into something that made more sense. Hey sweetheart, Dad and I are headed to the lake house this weekend, leaving tomorrow morning, love you. I must have fallen asleep around 5 because the next thing I knew, sunlight was coming through the curtains and I could smell coffee. I sat up and I found Lana in the kitchen. She was standing at the counter in one of Dad's old sweatshirts, both hands wrapped around her mug, staring out the window at the backyard like she was waiting for someone to walk out of the tree line. Good morning, I said. She nodded without turning around. Chris came down a few minutes later. He looked like he hadn't slept at all. His eyes red, the stubble of facial hair coming in uneven, He poured himself a cup of coffee and sat down at the table across from me. Nobody was talking. The kitchen was so quiet I could hear the clock on the wall above the stove. I was about to say something. I don't remember what. But then my sister Lana's phone started buzzing on the counter. She looked down at it and then she stopped breathing. "Oh my God," she said. Chris looked up. "What?" Lana picked up the phone. Her hands were shaking. She turned the screen towards us and I saw the name at the top of the message. It was Mom. The text read, "Hey honey, sorry we've been out of touch. Terrible signal up here. Heading home tomorrow morning. Should be up there by lunch. Love you." The kitchen went dead silent for a moment. Lana's eyes were filling up. She pressed the phone against her chest and let out this sound. "She's okay. Oh my God, she's okay," she said. I took the phone from her, gently, and read the message again. And then again. The tone was right. The way she wrote was right. The "Hey honey," that was Mom. The "I love you" at the end without a period, that was Mom. But something in my chest went unclench. I looked at Chris. He was staring at the phone in my hand with his coffee halfway to his mouth, frozen, and then he set the cup down slowly and said, "What time did it come in?" "Just now, Chris, she's coming home," she said. He nodded slowly, like he was processing it. He leaned back in his chair and ran both his hands through his hair and let out a long breath. Lana was already typing back. "Mom, we've been so worried. Please call us when you can. We love you so much," she said. The message delivered. "She said terrible signal," Chris said. "Yeah, but she got enough signal to text," I said. Chris looked at me. "I mean, well, mountains are like that. It comes and goes," he said. Lana was smiling for the first time since I arrived. She wiped her eyes with the sleeve of Dad's sweatshirt and started talking about what she'd make for dinner tomorrow when they got home. Dad's favorite, the big ziti he always asked for. She was already opening cabinets, checking if we had the right pasta. Chris got up and refilled his coffee. He squeezed Lana's shoulder as he passed her. "See? I told you they were fine." I watched him walk back to the table. He sat down and wrapped both his hands around the mug and looked right at me, and he smiled, a tired, relieved, grateful smile. But I pulled out my phone under the table and I did something I didn't tell either of them about. I opened Mom's text thread, my thread with her, and I typed a message. "Hey Mom, Lana said you're coming home tomorrow. I can't wait to see you. Call me when you can." I watched the screen for 5 minutes, 10, 20, but there was no reply. If her signal was strong enough to text Lana, it was strong enough to see mine. That's what I told myself. That's the thought I couldn't put down. The rest of the day moved slowly. Lana was feeling happier. She cleaned the kitchen. She called our job and told them she might need tomorrow off. She sat down on the porch and called her best friend and said, "I think they're okay. I think they're actually okay." And I could hear the friend screaming on the other end. Chris stayed quiet. He sat down on the couch and watched TV with the volume low, and then scrolled through his phone and didn't say much. When I sat next to him, he looked over and said, "It's been a hell of a couple days, man," he said. "Yeah," I said. "I'm glad you came down," he said. "Me too." He went back to his phone. I went back to mine. But Mom never texted me back. The next morning, we were all awake by 8. Lana had the pasta prepped and ready to go in the oven. She set the table for 5 plates, 5 glasses, 5 sets of silverware, like it was Thanksgiving, like they were just coming home from vacation and everything was fine, and the last couple of days had just been some sort of like misunderstanding. 9 o'clock passed, and then 10, and then 11. Chris was sitting in the kitchen table. I was on the porch watching the street. Noon came and went. "She said she'd be here by lunch," Lana said from inside. Her voice had changed. The lightness from yesterday was gone. Something heavier had taken its place. "Could be traffic," Chris called from the kitchen. By 2 o'clock, Lana had stopped talking. She was back on the couch with Mom's blanket in her lap, folded the same way as she held it the night that I arrived. The table was still set for 5. I pulled out my phone and I called Mom's number. It rang once, twice, 3 times. I expected a voicemail, but then something happened. Someone actually picked up. But it was just breathing, slow and heavy, not panicked, not like someone who was hurt or scared, or just breathing, just very steady, patient. like whoever was on the other end had been waiting for this call. Mom, hello? Mom, it's Ethan, are you there? Nothing, just that slow, heavy pull of air in and out. In and out. Who is this? The breathing stopped for maybe 2 seconds. There was complete silence on the line, and then the call ended. I stood on the porch staring at my phone. My hands were shaking. The screen showed the call had lasted 19 seconds. Across the street, Chris was coming back down from Mrs. Kendrick's driveway. He was shaking his head before he even reached the curb, and then he saw me and stopped in the middle of the road. What happened? He said. Someone answered Mom's phone. He crossed the rest of the street fast, came up the porch steps 2 at a time. What do you mean someone answered who? He asked. I don't know. They didn't talk. They just breathed. I said. Chris stared at me, his mouth open and closed. He looked through the screen door at Lana and then back at me and dropped his voice low. Like heavy breathing, like a prank? He said. It wasn't a prank, Chris. Okay, we need to call the police right now, he said. He already had his phone out. He was already pulling up the number. Lana appeared in the doorway. She heard enough. What's going on? She asked. Chris turned to her and his face did something I had never seen before. It shifted. 1 second he was looking at me like a brother trying to keep it together, and the next he was looking at Lana with the softest, most protective expression I've ever seen on a man's face, like he was about to deliver the worst news she ever heard and wanted to wrap it in something gentle first. Somebody has Mom's phone, he said quietly. Ethan called and somebody picked up. They didn't say anything, he said. I'm calling the police right now, Chris said. We're going to figure this out. He put the phone to his ear and walked inside, calm, measured, the guy with the plan. The brother who was holding all of us together. I sat at the kitchen table about an hour after the police left. They'd taken the phone call seriously enough to write it down, but not seriously enough to do anything about it yet. Said they'd look into it, said they'd be in touch. Same shit, different day. I'm driving to the lake house, I told them. Lana looked up from her coffee. What? She said. The lake house, I'm going up there. Ethan, no. She put the mug down. You're not going up there alone. We don't know what's going on yet. We don't know who answered that phone. She said. That's why I'm going, I said. Okay, then we all go. She said. No, somebody needs to be here just in case they come back. I didn't believe that anymore, not really. But Lana needed to, and I wasn't going to take it from her. She looked at Chris, waiting for him to back her up, waiting for him to tell me that I was being stupid. Chris was leaning against the counter with his arms folded. He was quiet for a long time, and then he said, I think we should let the police handle it, bro. Let them check it out. They're not going to check it out, Chris. You've been dealing with this shit for almost a week now. They don't care, I said. They do care, they're just very slow. Look, I'm going up there tonight and I'll be back later. Lana was shaking her head, tears running down her face, but she wasn't sobbing, just leaking. Like her body had given up trying to hold it and she was just letting it go. I don't want you to go, she said. I knelt down next to her chair. I took her hand and I told her, I need to see the house and know whether they're there or not. Because right now we're just sitting here guessing. I can't do this anymore, I said. She squeezed my hand hard, didn't let go for a while. Chris walked me to my car. The streets were quiet and dark. He stood at the driver's side with his hands in his jacket pocket. Be careful up there, he said. I will, I said. He tapped the roof of the car twice, the way Dad used to do it when he saw us off. I don't know if Chris did it on purpose. I don't know if he even realized he did it, but it didn't matter. I pulled out of the driveway, watched him in the rearview mirror. He stood there under the porch light with his hands in his pocket until I turned that corner. I drove north. 3 hours of the dark highway and trees and the occasional pair of headlights passing in the other direction. I had the radio off, the windows up, just me and the road and the sound of my own thoughts. And every single one of them was bad. Halfway there, my phone buzzed. A text from my sister. Please be safe. I love you, she said. I wanted to make sure that I was doing right by her. I put the phone down and I kept driving. The trees got thicker. The streetlights disappeared. The road narrowed from 4 lanes to 2, and then the 2 lanes got rougher. And by the time I turned into the gravel road that led to the lake house, I couldn't see anything but what the headlights gave me. Gravel under my tires, trees on both sides, and darkness everywhere else. I pulled into the driveway about 11:47 p.m. The headlights swept across the front of the house, and for 1 second I saw it all. The porch, the front door, the windows, the wood pile on the side. Everything dark. Everything still. I sat in the car with the engine running and the headlights on before I turned everything off and made it to the front door. I walked up to the house, turned on my phone flashlight, and I walked towards the front door. The gravel was loud under my feet. Every step sounded like it was announcing me to the whole lake. The porch steps creaked the way they always did. Second one from the top, and then the one closest to the door. I used to know which ones to skip when I sneak in late as a teenager. Funny what your body remembers when your brain is too scared to think. The front door was locked. I reached up above the frame and felt along the ledge where Dad always kept the spare key. My fingers found it immediately. Same spot. Same little brass key with the green rubber cover on the end. I unlocked the door and pushed it open. The smell hit me first. Not a bad smell, just still, close up. Like air that hadn't moved in weeks. I swept the flashlight across the room and saw exactly what I expected to see. Nothing. The living room looked like a photograph. Couch cushion straight, remote on the side table, Dad's fishing magazine stacked in a very neat pile on the coffee table, the blanket Grandma knitted draped over the back of the recliner. Everything in its place, everything untouched. I moved into the kitchen, clean, dry, no dishes in the sink, no water spots on the counter. The faucet had that stiff resistance it gets when it's not been touched in a long time. I opened the fridge, empty except for a box of baking soda and 2 bottles of water. No groceries, no leftovers, nothing that said anyone had been here recently. I checked the bedrooms, beds made, with the closets closed. Towels folded in the bathroom. The soap in the shower was dry and cracked. They never made it here. That was clear. Whatever happened to my parents happened before they reached this house. The place was exactly the way it should have been if no one had stepped foot here since springtime. But I heard something. I heard a thump. I stood in the hallway between the 2 bedrooms and listened. The house was quiet. The kind of quiet that presses in on your ears. I could hear the lake through the walls, that soft lapping sound, wind moving through the trees, my own breathing, nothing else. I started to feel stupid. Old houses make noise. Wood contracts in the code. Animals get under porches. I drove 3 hours to stand in an empty lake house with a phone flashlight like a kid checking for monsters under the bed. I was walking back through the living room toward the front door when my phone rang. Not a text, a phone call. The screen lit up, and the name at the top made my legs stop working. Mom. I answered. For a second there was nothing, just dead air, and then a voice came through. Not my mother's voice, a man's voice. Just low and calm, the kind of calm that wasn't peaceful, the kind that's chosen. You need to leave that house. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. I'm not going to say it again. You need to leave that house right now, tonight. Get in your car and drive away and don't come back. They said, "Who is this?" You don't know me and you don't want to, but I know you, Ethan. I know your car is in the driveway. I know you came alone, and I know you're standing in the living room right now with nobody to come and save you. I spun around. I swept the flashlight across every corner of the room. Empty. The windows were black. I couldn't see anything outside, but I could feel it. The sensation of being watched. Where are my parents? I asked. You need to leave the house right now. Leave the house. Where are my parents? I asked again. I'm not playing the game with you, boy. If you don't walk out that front door in the next 60 seconds, I'm going to come in there and kill you. And nobody's going to find you any faster than they found them. You got that? The line went dead. I stood there. The phone screen dimmed and the room got darker. And I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. Fast. Too fast. Like it was trying to get out my chest before the rest of me decided what to do. And then I heard it. A door, not the front door, somewhere deeper in the house, the back bedroom. The door I left open was now closing, slowly. The hinges groaning long and low and then the click of the latch catching. I turned toward the hallway. The flashlight beam was shook because my hands were shaking. The hallway was empty, but that door was closed. I left it open. I know I left it open. Something moved past the window to my left, not slow like an animal, a shape, dark and fast, moving past the glass from one side to the other and then gone. I jerked the flashlight toward the window and I saw nothing, just my own reflection, just the dark behind it. And then another door slammed. The sound bounced off the walls and filled the whole house. Then footsteps, not outside, inside, above me, on the roof or in the attic crawl space. Heavy, deliberate steps moving across from one end of the house to the other. Slow enough to be human. Slow enough to be someone who wanted me to hear them. I backed towards the front door. My flashlight was jumping from wall to window to hallway and I couldn't keep it steady. And I couldn't see anything, and the footsteps above me were getting louder. All I know was that I needed to get the hell out of that house. I grabbed the front door handle and pulled it open and ran outside of the house. I got to my car and my hands were shaking so badly, it took me 3 tries just to open the car door properly. And then I swung the doors open and I got the hell out of there. I saw the front door wide open as I was backing up, the way I left it. And standing in the doorway just inside the threshold where the porch light didn't reach, there was a shape, a figure, still watching me. I floored it. I got back to the house at 10 after 5 in the morning. My hands were still shaking when I turned the key in the front door. The house was dark, quiet. I went straight to the kitchen, grabbed a glass from the cabinet, and filled it at the sink and drank the whole thing, standing there in the dark. And then I filled it again. The water was cold, and it helped. Not a lot, but enough to make my hands slow down. I was leaning against the counter with both palms flat on the edge, trying to get my breathing right, when I heard the stairs creak. Lana appeared first. She was in her PJs, hair pulled back, eyes half open. She saw me standing in the dark kitchen and stopped. "Ethan," she said. Chris was right behind her. He came down the last few steps and looked at me over Lana's shoulder. Neither one of them turned the light on. I think they could tell the way I was standing that something was wrong. "What happened?" Chris said. I set the glass down. I tried to talk and my voice came out very dry, so I cleared my throat and I tried again. "Someone was in the lake house," I said. Lana took a step closer. "What do you mean someone was in it?" She said. "I mean someone was inside, or outside, or both, I don't know." I pressed my hands against my eyes and I saw it all again. The doors, the shadows, the figure in the doorway. The house was empty, completely empty. They never made it there. No groceries, no bags, nothing. No dust on everything. But when I was about to leave, I got a call from Mom's phone. I said. "Mom called you?" Lana's voice cracked open. "It wasn't Mom, it was a man. He told me to leave the house or he'd kill me. He said my name. He knew I was alone. He could see me, Lana. He was watching me." I said. Nobody spoke. The kitchen clock ticked. The refrigerator hummed. And then that's when I continued. "And then the door started slamming," I said. "Inside the house, rooms I'd already been in, doors I left open when closing on their own. I heard footsteps above me, on the roof or in the crawl space, and something kept moving past the windows, fast, like someone is just circling around the house," I said. Lana had her hand over her mouth. Chris was standing very still at the bottom of the stairs with his arms at his side. When I ran out to the car and turned around, someone was standing in the doorway, just standing there watching me leave. "Oh my God," Lana whispered. Chris moved first. He walked past me to the front door and checked the lock, and then he went to the back door in the laundry room and checked that one as well, and then the side door that led to the garage. I heard each deadbolt turn, one after another. He came back through the house and started pulling curtains. The living room, the kitchen, the small window by the front door. He moved quickly and quietly, like a man who had done fire drills in his head before. "Lana, go check the windows upstairs," he said. "Make sure they're all locked." She didn't argue. She went upstairs and I could hear her moving from room to room, each window clicking shut. Chris turned off the kitchen light and then the hallway light, and then the small lamp in the living room. The house went dark except for the glow of the microwave clock and a thin strip of street light leaking through the edge of the curtains. "Did someone follow you here?" Chris said. "I don't think anyone followed me. I checked the mirror the whole way back," I said. "Okay, because if someone followed you here, then we need to be smart. We don't need any lights and we don't make noise. We stay down here together until tomorrow morning, and we call the police at first light." Lana came back down. "Everything's locked," she said. Chris sat down on the floor with his back against the wall near the front door. Lana sat down on the couch and pulled Mom's blanket into her lap. I stayed in the kitchen doorway where I could see both of them, in the front and the back of the house at the same time. Nobody talked much after that. Lana asked me a few more questions, what the voice sounded like, whether I saw a face, whether there was a car. I answered what I could, and I said I don't know to the rest. Chris listened without interrupting. Every now and then he'd get up and look through the gap in the curtains at the streets outside. Each time he came back and sat down without saying anything. Around 3, Lana fell asleep on the couch. Her body just gave out. One minute she was sitting up with the blanket in her lap, and the next her head was against the armrest and her breathing had gone slow and even. Chris looked at her and then at me. "You should try getting some sleep, man," he said quietly. "I'm not sleeping." "Oh, come on, dude, just get some rest," he said. "I'm not sleeping, okay?" I said. He nodded, okay, and he stood up, stretched and rubbed the back of his neck. "I'm gonna go grab a blanket from upstairs. I'll be right back." He went upstairs. I heard his footsteps on the second floor, heard a door open and close, and then he came back down with a comforter under his arm and settled into the recliner near the window. "Wake me up if anything happens," he said. Within 20 minutes, his breathing had changed too, deep and steady, the way that people breathe when they're not afraid. The house was dark and locked. I sat down on the couch next to Lana's feet and pulled Mom's blanket over my legs and kept my eyes on the front door. The TV was off. I thought about turning it on just for the noise, but I didn't want to miss a sound. Not tonight. Tonight, I needed to hear everything. An hour passed, and then another. The house settled and ticked and breathed. Lana shifted in her sleep. Chris didn't move at all. My eyes were starting to burn. That heavy, dry feeling you get when your body is begging for rest and your brain won't let it happen. I blinked hard, rubbed my face, stared at the thin line of light at the edge of the curtain, and tried to calculate how long until sunrise. And then that's when my phone started buzzing next to me. The screen lit up, and the light felt like a flashlight in the dark room. I grabbed it fast and tilted away from Lana so I wouldn't wake her. It was from Mom's phone. "You look so tired tonight, sweetheart. You should get some rest. Big day tomorrow," it said. The air left my lungs. I read it again and then again. The words didn't change. "You look so tired tonight." Looked past tense, like someone had seen me. Not guessed, not assumed. Seen me. Tonight, in this house. Before I closed the curtains, before Chris killed the lights, someone had been watching long enough to see me standing in the kitchen with a glass of water and shaking hands, and a face that looked the way tired looks when it's mixed with fear. I turned towards the windows. Every curtain was drawn. Every lock was turned. But it didn't matter. Whoever sent this had already seen what they needed to see. They'd been outside, right there on the line or the sidewalk or sitting in the car in the street, close enough to see my face through the glass. I looked at Lana, still asleep. I looked at Chris, his chest rising and falling, his face slack, peaceful. I typed back with both thumbs. I didn't think about it. I just needed to do something other than sit there. Delivered. I watched the screen. The room was so quiet I could hear my own pulse. 1 minute, 2 minutes. The screen dimmed. I tapped it awake. 3 minutes, 4. The typing indicator appeared. Someone on the other end of that phone was choosing their words, but the dots had disappeared. The cruelty of it all was precise. Not the cruelty of violence. The cruelty of control. Of someone saying, "I'm right here and there's nothing you can do about it." I locked the phone and held it against my chest and said in the dark, "Big day tomorrow." I didn't know what the hell that meant. I didn't know if it was a threat or a warning or a countdown to something I couldn't see yet. But whoever sent it had been close. Close enough to see me. Close enough to know which room I was in and what I looked like sitting in it. In the morning, Chris came downstairs, even though he had been in the recliner all night, and found me sitting in the same spot. He stopped and looked at me and said, "You okay?" I showed him the text. He took the phone and read it. I watched his face. He squinted at the screen. His jaw tightened, and then he looked up and said, "This is sick, man. Whoever has our phone is messing with us." They said I looked tired tonight. That means they were watching the house, Chris, I said. Chris looked at the curtains, at the gap of light coming through the edge, and then back at me. "We need to tell the police about this." "The police haven't done anything. They're not going to do shit," I said. "Then we make them do something. This is harassment. This is threats. They can trace the number." He handed the phone back and went to the kitchen. I heard the coffee maker start. Heard the cabinet open, 2 mugs, normal sounds, morning sounds. Lana was still asleep on the couch. Mom's blanket pulled up to her chin. She looked young. She looked like she did when we were kids, and she'd fall asleep watching movies on Friday nights, and Dad would just carry her upstairs. And I looked at that text one more time. Big day tomorrow. Well, tomorrow was here, and I still didn't know what the hell that meant, but someone did. I went to the neighbor's house. I knocked 3 times. The volume was up loud the way it always was because Mrs. Kendrick refused to admit she needed hearing aids. Footsteps. I heard them, and then the chain sliding, and then the deadbolt. The door opened, and Mrs. Kendrick looked at me through the screen with her reading glasses halfway down her nose and a dish towel over her shoulder. She didn't recognize me right away. I could hear her working through it. The face was familiar, but the context was wrong. I hadn't lived on this street for years, and then it landed. "Ethan," she said. "Yes, ma'am." "Oh, honey, come in, come in." She pushed the screen door open and grabbed my arm like she was afraid I'd blow away. Her hands were small and warm and stronger than they looked. "I have been thinking about your family nonstop. I almost came across the street 6 times, but I didn't want to intrude. How are you holding up?" she said. "I'm okay, Mrs. Kendrick," I said. "No, you're not. I can see it in your face. Come sit down. Let me get you something," she said. She didn't ask what I wanted. She just walked into her kitchen and came back with a glass of sweet tea and a small plate of shortbread cookies and set them both down on the side table next to me. Her house smelled the way it always had. Lavender and coffee and old carpet and the faint sweetness of whatever she was always baking. The furniture hadn't changed since I was 12. The same couch, the same recliner with the crocketed armrest covers, the same framed photos of grandkids I never met covering every flat surface. She turned the television off and sat across from me in a recliner and folded the dish towel in her lap and waited. Patient, the way that old people wait when they know you came to say something and they're not going to rush you into it. "Mrs. Kendrick, I need to ask you about the morning my parents left." She nodded slowly. "I figured that's what this was about. Chris told me that he spoke to you that first weekend. He said that you saw some things that morning." I said, "Yeah, he did come over. That Saturday, I think, maybe Sunday. He knocked on the door just like you did, asked me if I noticed anything unusual on Friday morning." "What did you tell him?" I said. She shifted in the recliner and looked out her front window. From where she was sitting, I could see my parents' house across the street. The driveway, the porch, the front door. She had a clear line of sight from this room to everything that happened over there. "I told him what I saw," she said, which wasn't much, but I'll tell you the same thing I said to him. She took a breath and folded her hands together. "So I was up around 5:45 that morning, made my coffee, same as always. I like to stand at the kitchen window while it brews because I can see the whole street from there, and I like to watch the neighborhood wake up. I know that makes me sound nosy, but," she said. "It doesn't," I said. "It does, but that's fine. I've earned it," she said. She almost smiled. "So I'm standing there and it's barely light out, that time of morning when everything is gray, and I see a car in your parents' driveway I didn't recognize. It was like a dark colored big SUV, I think. Not your father's car. I know your father's car. He's had that same one for years, but this one was different," she said. "Did you see what kind, like a make or model?" I said. "Honey, I could barely tell a Ford from a Chevy. I just know it was dark and it was big and it wasn't supposed to be there that early," she said. "Chris said that you saw a couple. A man and a woman near the front door? I said. She tilted her head, that same slight tilt from before, like a bird catching a wrong note. A couple? She said. Yeah, that's what he told me. He said that you saw two people, a man and a woman, standing near the front door around the time that Mom and Dad would have been leaving, I said. She shook her head, not fast, not defensive, but just very confused. Like she was replaying the conversation with Chris in her head and couldn't find the part that I was describing. No, sweetheart, that's not what I said. I saw one person, just one, walking from the driveway toward the front of the house. I can't even tell you if it was a man or a woman, but it was dark, too far away. Just a figure, a shape moving across the driveway, she said. Just one person? I said. One person, she said. And you told Chris that? Yeah, that's exactly what I told him. One person. One vehicle. I said I didn't get a good look because it was barely light out and I was half awake and I was looking through a window with a coffee mug in my hand. I told him I was sorry that I couldn't be more of a help, she said. I set the sweet tea down. I hadn't touched it. Mrs. Kendrick, did the police ever come over here to talk to you about this? I asked. She looked at me for a moment, and then she shook her head again, slower this time. No one from the police has ever come to my door, Ethan. Not once, she said. Chris said that he told them about what you saw. Said it was in the report. I said, maybe he did, but they never showed up. You know how they are, but nobody has knocked on this door asking me anything. You're the first person who's come to talk to me about that morning since your brother, she said. The room was quiet. The television was off. I could hear her kitchen clock ticking from the other room. A different clock from the one in my parents' house, but that same sound. The same steady indifferent countings of seconds. Is something wrong? She asked. She was watching my face and she was old, but she wasn't stupid. She could see something shifting between my eyes. Ethan, is there something that you're not telling me? She asked. No, ma'am, I'm just trying to piece everything together, I said. That person I saw, she said. She leaned forward in the recliner. There was one thing I didn't tell Chris because I wasn't sure about it, and I didn't want to say something that wasn't true. She said. I looked at her. The person walking up the driveway, the way they moved, it wasn't like a stranger coming to the door for the first time. They weren't looking around. They weren't hesitating. They walked straight from the car to the house, like they knew exactly where they were going, like they had been there before, she said. She let that sit. It could have been a friend of your parents, could have been anyone, but strangers don't walk like that. Strangers look around, but this person didn't look around at all, she said. I thanked her. I told her I'd be in touch. She squeezed my hand at the door the same way she grabbed my arm when I came in, firm and warm and worried. I hope you find them, sweetheart. They're good people. Your mom always waved to me when she pulled out of that driveway. Every single morning. She never forgot. I walked down her porch steps and stood in the driveway before walking across the street towards the house. I got to the house. Chris wasn't there, but I saw Lana in the kitchen, wearing Dad's sweatshirt again, the one she'd been living in since I got there. Lana, I need to tell you something, I said. Okay. Come sit down, I said. She didn't move. Something in my voice had changed and she heard it. The way her eyes narrowed slightly and her shoulders pulled together like she was braced for impact, and she was braced for impact without knowing what direction it was coming from. Just tell me, Ethan, she said. Sit down, please, I said. She sat down at the kitchen table. I sat across from her, the same seats, the same table. Everything in this house happened at the table. So I talked to Mrs. Kendrick today. I know, I saw you walk over there, she said. Chris told us that she saw a couple that morning. A man and a woman near the front door. A dark SUV. He said she told him all of this and he passes to the police. I said. Right, she said. But that's not what she told me. I said. What? What do you mean? She said. She saw the SUV. That part's true. She saw a dark vehicle in the driveway earlier that morning, but she didn't see a couple, Lana. She saw one person. One. Just one. She couldn't even tell me if it was a man or a woman. She told Chris the same thing. One person, not two, I said. Lana stared at me. Her mouth opened slightly like she was about to say something, but the words got stuck somewhere between her brain and her lips. And there's more, I said. The police never talked to her. Nobody came to her door. Nobody followed up. Chris said he told them about Mrs. Kendrick. He said it was in the report. She lived across the street for 15 years and not a single officer has knocked on her door. Well, maybe they just haven't gotten around to it yet, she said. Lana, it's been a week. That doesn't mean anything, she said. No, it means something. It means he lied, Lana. Chris lied about what she saw and he lied about telling the police. The kitchen went quiet. Not the normal quiet. The quiet that happens when something in the air changes and everybody in the room can feel it, but nobody wants to be the first one to name it. Lana pulled the sleeves of Dad's sweatshirt tighter over her hands. She was gripping the cuff so hard her knuckles were white underneath the fabric. Why would he lie about that? She said. I don't know, I said. Okay, but why would Chris lie about what the neighbor saw? That doesn't make any sense. Maybe he just misheard her. Maybe she told him one thing and just remembered it differently when she talked to you. She's 7 years old, Ethan. She said it herself. She was half asleep, she said. No, she was clear about this. She was very specific. She said one person, Lana, one person. And she said nobody from the police has ever spoken to her. Ethan, just stop, she said. Lana, are you kidding me? Lana, are you serious right now? I said. Ethan, just stop. Her voice cracked. Not loud, not angry, broken. Like a branch that's been bending and finally gives. Like, what are you even saying to me right now? What are you actually saying? She said. I looked at my sister, at her red eyes and her bitten nails and the sweatshirt she was wearing because it smelled like Dad's. I looked at her and I knew that what I was about to say would hurt her worse than anything that happened so far. I'm just saying things don't add up. I'm saying that Chris has been the only source of information since this started. Everything we know came from him. The timeline, the neighbor, the police report. He's the one who called me. He's the one who said he checked the credit cards. He's the one that told us what Mrs. Kendrick saw. And now I'm finding out that what he told us isn't what actually happened. Lana shook her head. Slowly at first, and then faster. No, I've been in this house with him, Ethan, okay? I watched him worry. I watched him pace the floors. I watched him sit on that porch every night waiting for headlights in the driveway, okay? You didn't see that, Ethan. You weren't there. He was falling apart, she said. Or maybe he was just performing, I said. Don't say that, she said. Lana, don't say that about him. He's our brother. I know he's our brother. That's why I'm sitting here telling you this instead of calling the police, I said. That landed. I watched it hit her. She sat back in the chair and her hands went flat on the table, and she stared at some point between us that didn't exist. The clock ticked. The refrigerator hummed. And there's something else, I said. I didn't want to say it, but she needed all of it. Mrs. Kendrick said the person she saw walking up the driveway that morning, they moved like they knew the house, didn't look around, didn't hesitate, walked straight from the car to the front door like they'd been there 100 times. Lana's eyes were glassing over, not with tears, but something deeper, something that happens behind a person's face when the story they've been telling themselves starts collapsing and they can't find a new one to stand on. Were things bad before I got here? I asked. Between Chris, Mom, and Dad. She didn't answer right away. Lana, were they fighting? I asked. It wasn't fighting, she said quietly. It was just tension, okay? Okay, Dad kept asking Chris when he was going to start looking for a job. Mom tried to stay out of it, but you can tell it was just wearing on her. It had been going on for months, she said. How bad? I asked. Well, Dad told him at dinner one night that he had until the end of July to find something, or he'd have to make other arrangements. That's how he said it, other arrangements. Mom didn't say anything. She just looked at her plate. She said, when was that? I don't know, maybe a week before they left. I don't know, maybe less. Did Chris say anything? No, he got up from the table and went to his room. He didn't come out till the very next morning and just acted like nothing happened. She paused. The words hung in the air. She heard them come out of her mouth, and I watched her face change as she realized what she just said. what it meant in the context of everything I just told her. "Oh God," she whispered. "I don't know anything for sure," I said. "I'm telling you what I know and what doesn't match. That's all," I said. "Oh God, Ethan," she said. "We don't know anything for sure." But we did. We both did. It was there in the room with us. It had been there since the night I arrived, maybe longer. Maybe Lana had felt it in the house for weeks. Headlights swept across the living room curtains and died. Our car opened and closed. Footsteps on the driveway, slow and casual, the walk of a man coming home from a drive. I was at the front door before he hit the porch steps. Chris stepped inside, closed the door behind him slowly. The door swung open and Chris stopped mid-stride with his keys still in his hand. He looked at me standing in the doorway and then passed me at Lana, sitting at the kitchen table. Watched his eyes move from my face to hers and back again, and I saw the calculation behind them. The quick math of a person figuring out which version of himself to put on. He chose calm. "What's going on?" Chris said. "Mrs. Kendrick didn't see a couple, Chris," I said. He stopped. His mouth stayed open for half a second with the next word still sitting on his tongue, and then he closed it. "She saw one person," I said. "One. Not two, not a man and a woman. One figure in the driveway that she couldn't even identify. She told you the same thing. And you turned it into a couple. You invented two strangers at the front door," I said. "Ethan, I think you're misunderstanding what she said," he said. "I'm not misunderstanding anything," I said. "She's 70 years old, dude. She told me one thing and maybe she's just remembering it differently now," he said. "No, she was very specific, Chris, okay? She was clear. One person, one vehicle, and she said that she told you the same thing," I said. Chris looked at Lana. She was sitting at the table with her hands flat on the surface, and she wasn't crying. For a whole week, Lana had been the one who cried, but she wasn't crying now. She was looking at Chris the way you look at a photograph you suddenly realize has been altered. "Lana," Chris said, soft, "you've been here with me every day. You saw what I went through. Tell him." Lana didn't answer. "Come on, tell him." "Come on, just tell him," Chris said again. "You told me they left on Friday morning," Lana said. "I was at work. I came home and you said they were going to the lake. I never saw them that morning. Everything I know about that day came from you, because I was here. I heard the door," he said. "You told me a couple was in the driveway." "Yeah, that's what Mrs. Kendrick said." "No, she didn't." Lana's voice cracked once and then steadied. "Why would you change that? Why would you add a person who wasn't there?" she said. Chris's jaw tightened. I could see the muscles working under his skin. He was standing by the front door with his keys still in his hand, and for the first time since I arrived, he looked like a man standing in a room he wasn't sure he could leave. "You're both stressed," he said. We all are. This is tearing us apart, and we're turning on each other. That's what's happening here. That's all this is," he said. "Dad told you to go get a job or get out," I said. The air in the room went thin. He told you end of July. Other arrangements. Lana told me about the dinner. He told you end of July. Other arrangements. Lana told me about the dinner, I said. "That had nothing to do with this," Chris said. "Okay, so when was the last time you actually saw Mom and Dad, Chris? Not heard the door and I'd assume they left. When was the last time you actually saw them? When was the last time you looked at them?" "You need to stop," Chris said. "Answer me." "I said stop, Ethan," he said. "No, answer me," I said. "Okay, well, I filed the report. I told them everything she said. If they didn't follow up, that's on them." "You're lying," I said. "I'm not lying." His voice jumped, not to anger, to desperation, something I hadn't heard from him before. "Why would I lie about what the neighbor saw? What would that accomplish?" he said. "I don't know, Chris, you tell me," I said. "Tell you what? I didn't do anything." He was looking between us now, fast, back and forth, like a man watching doors close around him. Lana, look at me. You've been here with me every day, every single day. I have been losing my mind trying to figure out what happened to them. You saw it. You watched me, right?" he said. Lana was sitting at the table with her hands flat on the surface. "You told me a couple was in the driveway," she said, flat and quiet. Because that's what she told me. I'm telling you the truth. I sat in that woman's living room and she said she saw two people near the front door, a man and a woman. Why the hell would I make that up? Chris said. Well, didn't Dad tell you to get a job or get out? I said. Like I said, that has nothing to do with this, Ethan, Chris said. Okay, so answer me then. When was the last time you saw Mom and Dad? I said. Friday morning, I heard the door. I told you this 100 times. He said. Okay, so you heard the door and you didn't see them. I said. I was asleep. His hands were shaking now, his keys rattling in his grip. I was asleep and I heard the door and I came down and they were gone. That's what happened. He said. Okay, so explain the text from Mom's phone. Explain the man at the lake house and explain all that. Someone has their phone. Someone was at that lake house. Someone is doing this and you're standing here accusing me? He said. He was crying, but I hadn't expected that. Not before tears. The kind that comes with a red face and a cracking voice. He wiped his face with the back of his hand and it didn't help. I didn't hurt them, Ethan. They were my parents. I know I screwed up. I know I should have got a job. I know Dad was right, but I didn't, okay? I would never kill them. I would never hurt them, he said. Lana, call the police, I said. Ethan, please, Chris said. Lana's hand moved under the table. I heard the tap of her fingers, 3 numbers. Chris heard the dispatcher's voice, small through the phone, and something in him broke, not into violence, into panic, pure animal panic, the kind that doesn't think. He started lunging, not at Lana, at the phone, trying to grab it, trying to stop the call. I stepped between them, my shoulder hit his chest, and we went into the counter. The dish rack collapsed. I didn't do anything, he was screaming. Over and over, swinging at me, not like a killer, like a man being buried alive, desperate, frantic, and sloppy. I didn't do it! I didn't do it! He said. I pinned him to the floor. He fought me, kicked and twisted and screamed. Lana was in the doorway, giving the dispatcher the address, and Chris heard it, and he stopped fighting and just laid there on the kitchen floor, crying with his hands over his face. Please, Ethan, I'm your brother. I didn't do this, please, he said. I didn't let go. I held him on the floor, and I watched him cry, and I told myself this was just the performance of a guilty man. I told myself this is Chris's doing. What Chris does best, making you believe him. Told myself I was right. The sirens came. The officers came. They rolled Chris onto his stomach and pulled the cuffs on. He didn't resist. He stopped fighting. He stopped talking. He just laid there with his cheek against the kitchen floor, and his eyes open and empty. At the front door, he turned, looked back at me, and his face, I can't describe it any other way. His face looked like a child who doesn't understand what's happening, who's been told something terrible, who's been told something's terrible, and doesn't have the tools to process it. I didn't do it, he said one more time, quiet, not to convince me, just to say it out loud, to put it in the air. They put him in the car, closed the door. Lana and I stood in the doorway. She leaned into me. I put my hand on the back of her head, and I held her. Across the street, Mrs. Kendrick's curtains were open. I could see her standing at her window with her hand over her mouth. I closed the front door, left the porch light on. I was sure I had done the right thing. That first night without Chris was the quietest the house had ever been. Lana went to bed early. I sat on the couch with Mom's blanket and just stared at the dark and listened to nothing. No brother sleeping on the couch 4 feet away. Just me in the house and the ticking of that rooster clock. I didn't sleep. I sat there and replayed the fight in my head, frame by frame. Chris's face when I said Mrs. Kendrick didn't see a couple. Chris's voice when he said I didn't do it. Chris's eyes when they cuffed him and walked him to the door. He cried. That's the thing I couldn't get past. Chris cried. Not the way a caught man cries with shame or resignation, or the quiet acceptance of someone who knows the game is over. He cried like a kid being punished for something he didn't even do, and not understanding why nobody believes him. I've seen Chris lie before. When we were teenagers, he lied about sneaking out, lied about ditching Dad's car, lied about who ate the last piece of Mom's banana pudding, and every time he was always smooth, easy. The light came out of him like water, no hesitation. That was Chris's gift. When Chris lied, you couldn't see the seams, but on that kitchen floor, there was nothing but seams. He was falling apart at every edge, voice breaking, a red face, hands shaking. That wasn't a performance. I've seen Chris perform and that wasn't it. So if it wasn't a performance, then what was it? The next morning, me and Lana were sitting at the kitchen table. I don't think he was lying, Lana said. I know, I said. Like, there's no way he was faking that, she said. Well, people can fake crying, I said. Well, Chris can't. Not like that. Do you remember when Grandma died? He didn't even cry at the funeral. He didn't cry at the house afterward. He just went up to his room and closed the door, and we didn't see him for like 2 days. That's how he handled it. He just goes quiet. He shuts down. He doesn't scream on a kitchen floor begging his brother to believe him, she said. I didn't say anything because she was right. You're telling me the same person who faked concern for a week perfectly without a single slip suddenly fell apart the moment you confronted him? He held it together through the police report, through the text, through the lake house, through all of it. And then you say one thing and he just suddenly collapses? She said. What are you saying, Lana? I asked. I'm saying that's not the same person. Whoever planned all this was being smart about it. The kitchen was quiet. I looked at the window above the sink, the one that faces the street. There's something else, I said slowly. The thought was forming as I spoke. I hadn't put it together until that moment. The text, the one that said I looked tired. It came in at 1 a.m. I said. Yeah, I remember, she said. Chris was sleeping on the couch. He had been there for over an hour. He never got up and he never moved, I said. So how did he send it? She said. That's the thing, I don't think he did, I said. Lana set her coffee down. She looked at me, and I watched the same thing happen to her face that had happened to mine the day before at Mrs. Kendrick's house. A foundation shifting, a picture going out of focus and then coming back sharper than before, but showing something completely different. So whoever sent that text could see me through the window, I said. The curtains were still open. The lamp was on. Anyone outside could see the couch, could see me sitting there, I said. We both looked at the window, and through it, across the street, at Mrs. Kendrick's house. Her kitchen window faced ours, 30 feet of street and sidewalk and 2 patches of lawn between them. On a clear night with a lamp on and the curtains open, you could see everything in this kitchen from that window. She stands at that window every morning. I mean, hell, she told me so herself. She likes to watch the neighborhood wake up. Ethan, what are you thinking? She said. I'm thinking I have to go back over there. Okay, I'll go with you, she said. No, I can't bring you with me. If I'm right, if this is what I think it is, then I need her to think everything is normal. I need her to think that I still trust her. Maybe ask her a couple more questions, if what I'm thinking is true. Okay, but what if you're wrong? She said. Then I'm wrong and Chris is exactly where he should be, and I'll live with that, I said. But I don't think I was wrong. I mean, I could feel it in the way you would feel weather changing. Something in the air. Something in the pressure. I stood up, grabbed my jacket, walked to the front door. Lana was standing at the table, arms crossed. If we're not back in 20 minutes, I'm calling the police, she said. Make it 15, I said. I knocked on the front door. The television was on inside. I could hear it through the wall. And then I heard footsteps. Slow, the chain, the deadbolt. The door opened, and then there she was. Mrs. Kendrick. Small and warm. Reading glasses on the beaded chain. Ethan, honey, come in, come in. I heard about Chris. I'm so sorry, she said. Mrs. Kendrick, I need to ask you about something, I said. Of course, sweetheart. The night I came back from the lake house, I was sitting in the kitchen at our house around 5 a.m. The curtains were still open. The light was on. Could you see our kitchen from your window? I said. She tilted her head. I suppose I could. I don't usually look over there that time of night, she said. But you can see it? I said. Yeah, if the light was on, sure, but, these old houses, the windows face each other. My husband, Gerald, always said we should plant a hedge, she said. Someone sent me a text that night from my mother's phone. It said I looked tired. That means whoever sent it could see me through the window at 5 a.m, I said. She shook her head slowly. Well, that's terrifying, Ethan. Do the police know about this? I don't know if they do or if they don't. But I mean, Chris was inside the house with us when that text came in. He was sleeping. He never moved, I said. The hardest part about the phone, whoever has it, they've been using it to contact us, sending messages, pretending to be her. I said, that's evil, Ethan. That's just evil. Yeah, it is, I said. How many messages? She said. A few. Enough to keep us hoping, enough to keep us off balance, I said. She leaned forward, her eyes soft with sympathy. Telling you she's on her way home and never showing up? Huh, I can't think of anything crueler than that. Giving you that hope and then yanking it away, she said. The words settled over me, warm at first and then cold. I hadn't exactly told her what the text said. I told her someone was using Mom's phone. I told her there were messages. I never, not during this visit, not during the first visit, not ever told her the content of those messages. I never said the text talked about coming home. The text from Mom's phone had said, heading home tomorrow morning. Should be there by lunch. Mrs. Kendrick just described it perfectly. Coming home, never showing up. She knew something was up. I looked at her. She was still leaning forward, still wearing the same face of gentle concern. And behind it, behind the lavender and the sweet tea and the reading glasses, something else was looking back at me. Something that had been there every time I had sat in this chair. Something patient and still and watching. Mrs. Kendrick, how did you know the text said she was coming home? I said. The lean stopped. You told me, honey, last time you were here. She said. No, I didn't, I said. Oh, I'm sure you did. We talked about your mother's phone and you said that. She said. No, I said someone was sending messages. I didn't say what they said. I never told you what those texts said. Not the first time I came here. Not today. Not ever. Her hands moved to the armrest of the recliner, not gripping, just resting. Ethan, I'm 72 years old, okay? I talk to people on the street. Maybe Lana mentioned it, or somebody, or someone, I don't know. Maybe I heard it from somewhere. She said, well, Lana hasn't spoken to you. Nobody on the street knows what those texts said. The police know it. Chris knows it. Lana knows, I know it, and that's it. You knew she was coming home because you wrote it, I said. Or maybe you told someone what to write. You knew you believed it because it sounded like her. The hey honey, the I love you at the end. You've been listening to my mother talk for 18 years, Dorothy. You knew exactly how she sounded. I said. You need to stop this, she said. Okay, so who sent the text, Mrs. Kendrick? I said. I don't know what the hell you're talking about, she said. Was it your son? I said. The room went dead. I watched something cross her face that I had never seen in 2 visits. Not the flicker, a full shift. The grandmother pulling back like curtains opening on a stage. And what was behind it was hard and flat. Old in a way that had nothing to do with age. Your father owed me, she said. Her voice was different, lower. The softness stripped away like paint off a wall. He owed me, and he knew it, and he went on living his life like Gerald's death was just something that happened. Like weather, like he didn't have his fingerprints all over it, she said. What the fuck did you do to my parents? I said. Gerald went to him one time in 18 years. He asked your father for help. $60,000 to keep the business alive for 6 more months. Your father said no, said it was too risky. She paused. And then he bought a brand new Explorer the next month. $38,000 sitting in the driveway where I could see it every single morning while my husband's life fell apart, she said. What did you do to them? Your mother came over with a tuna casserole after the funeral, and that bitch thought that was gonna do anything? Like that shit fixes anything. She sat right there where you're sitting and held my hand and told me everything was going to be okay. And I sat here and smiled, and the whole time I was thinking, you're sitting in a house that was built on my husband's grave, she said. Where the hell are my parents? I said. Your father killed Gerald. Maybe not with his hands, but he watched him drown. He stood there on the shore with the money in his pocket, and he watched my husband go under. And then he went home almost every night like nothing happened, she said. You know what? I'm calling the police, I said. I pulled on my phone. She came out of the recliner fast. Her hands grabbed my wrists, small and strong as fuck, the same hands that squeezed mine at the door. Her nails dug into my skin, and she twisted, and the phone slipped, and she was screaming, "Don't you dare! Your father owed me! He owed me, and now he's dead! He's finally dead!" she said. I pushed her off, not hard, just enough to break the grip. She stumbled backward into the recliner and caught herself and stood there with her hair coming loose from the pins and her glasses hanging sideways on the chain, and her face twisted into something I will see every time I close my eyes for the rest of my damn life. Not rage, conviction. "You tell them what your father did," she screamed as I backed into the door. "You tell them that he let Gerald die. You tell them," she said. I was out the screen door, down the steps, across the driveway, calling the police as I ran. The first shot hit the mailbox. I hit the ground. "Lana, get down!" I said. The front door opened. Lana in the driveway, face white. The second shot hit the porch railing. Wood exploded, and she dropped. Lana crawled backward. I scrambled up the driveway on hands and knees. A third shot punched through the living room window, glass everywhere. I made it through the door. I kicked it shut. I grabbed Lana, pulled her to the hallway wall, away from windows, away from the street, away from the woman across the road who had served me sweet tea 3 times and held my parents under her house the whole time. "Stay down," I said. Another shot hit the siding, and then another, and then silence. The dispatcher was in my ear. "Someone is shooting at her house. She's across the street. Please hurry." Lana and I sat on the hallway floor and listened to the sirens outside. "So it was her?" Lana whispered. "Yeah," I said. "Oh my God." The police came. Megaphone. Dorothy Kendrick was told to put the weapon down and come outside. They let Chris go the next morning. I drove to the station. I sat in the parking lot trying to find the right words. There weren't any. He was on a bench outside. Same clothes, the blue shirt Mom gave him, torn at the collar where I grabbed it. He saw me coming and didn't stand up. I stopped in front of him. Opened my mouth. Nothing. "I told you I didn't do it," he said. "I know," I said. He looked at the ground. I sat next to him. We stayed like that for a while, and then I said, "Come home," I said. He rolled in the back seat. Didn't explain why. I didn't ask. Lana was on the porch when we got there. Lana was on the porch when we got home. When Chris got out of the car, she came down the steps and crossed the driveway and stopped in front of him. He couldn't speak. Chris pulled her in and held her, and she fell apart against his chest. I walked up and stood there like an idiot until Chris looked at me over Lana's head. I didn't say I'm sorry again. I think I'd said it enough, and it wasn't enough. I just put my arms around both of them. The 3 of us just stood in the driveway, holding on to each other in front of our parents' broken house. And nobody said anything because there was nothing left else to say that mattered more than being there. We never had a big conversation about it, no sit down. It just settled. Slowly, the way that weather changes. Some mornings were harder than others. Chris would go quiet for a day or two, and I know he was back in that cell in his head, and I give him space and leave a plate of food outside his door and not even knock. We ended up burying our parents on a Saturday. Small service, just the 3 of us and a few people from the neighborhood. A week after the funeral, I told Chris and Lana to pack their things. They couldn't stay in that house, not with the bullet holes in the siding and Mrs. Kendrick's empty house staring at them from across the street. I drove them back to my apartment. It was small, 1 bedroom. I gave them the bed and took the couch, and nobody complained because we all had slept in worse places over the past month. It was tight, 3 adults in a 1-bedroom apartment, 1 bathroom and a kitchen the size of a closet, but it worked. Lana picked up extra shifts. Chris started looking for a job the first week, quietly without telling anyone. He'd leave in the morning with a clean shirt and came back in the afternoon, and then one evening he came through the door and said, "Hey, I got a job." Warehouse work, early mornings, physical, but he said it like a man putting a brick down on bare ground. The first brick of something. He saved for 3 months, then spent on anything he didn't need, and then he found a studio apartment 20 minutes away, small and clean, and his. The day he moved in, Lana and I helped him carry boxes upstairs. When the last box was inside, he stood in the middle of that empty studio and looked around and didn't say much for a long time. Lana found her own place a month after that. A little one bedroom with a window that faced the park. She put Mom's blanket on her couch. It was the first thing she unpacked. They ended up arresting Mrs. Kendrick's son 2 days after they took her. His name was Dale. He was 47, lived in a studio apartment in Bridgeport, 2 hours south. The police found my mother's phone in his glove compartment. They found dark clothing and a trash bag in his closet that matched the build of the figure at the lake house. They found the burner phone he used to call me that night, the one with the voice that told me to leave or die. He didn't put up much of a fight. He opened the door and he saw the badges and sat down on his couch and put his hands on his knees and waited, like he had been waiting for it. I'm just glad that I don't have to worry about him anymore and that this is all over.